time to do ARAMs instead of a ranked game, because I don't feel like it. Aren't you? Ball of joy today. A burst of energy. Attractive man. Exciting to be around. Never boring. Always nothing wrong. Would you like to not see me anymore? Sure. Alrighty. Would you like to watch a show or documentary? Yeah, like you couldn't do that on your own, huh? We haven't finished this one.
This wow signal came from the constellation.
No one cares.
Just for a moment, imagine a universe awash with life, where we humans are not the only intelligent beings around. What might these alien races look like? Could we communicate with them, or even recognize them as intelligent? And what would they make of our violent and dangerous species? Might they take one peep and decide not to bother with such primitive beings? A planetary nursery filled with spiteful galactic infants. On the other hand, in our imaginary scenario, they may enrich us with scientific knowledge beyond our imagination. Or could an encounter with aliens have a more destructive outcome? It could be a bad day for humankind. But relax. It's just make-believe. It could never happen. Could it? Welcome to our home, the Milky Way. Our sun is just one of a few 100 billion stars in this galaxy. Feeling small and insignificant yet?
Yes.
Now think of not just one, but billions and billions of galaxies. And you have the universe. But how big is the universe? It's impossible to measure it in terms of miles. The numbers would be meaningless. Instead, distances in space are measured in light years. That's the distance light travels in 1 year. And the speed light travels is about 186,000 miles per second. Try working that out on a calculator. To save you the trouble, 1 light year is a distance of nearly 6 trillion miles. Light takes 100,000 years just to cross our galaxy. That means every time we look up at the stars, we are looking back in time. It takes millions and millions of years for light to reach us from other galaxies. And light from the farthest regions of the universe takes billions of years. What we are seeing are events that occurred before the Earth even existed, when the universe was in its infancy. So with such an immense piece of real estate, it's no surprise to learn that there are more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on every beach and desert on planet Earth. So what are the chances of us being the only kids on the block?
It would be bizarre if we're the only ones.
Are we alone? No.
After thousands of years thinking that we are unique, scientists are making some astonishing discoveries here on Earth, in our solar system, and in deep space. Some scientists now believe that we are just a few years away from our first contact.
We'll know we're not alone between the year 2020 and the year 2025. This will be one of the biggest, if not the biggest story of all time.
And what will he or she look like? Will they even be a he or a she? Or could we have already had a close encounter of the third kind? Some people believe that aliens have visited us in the past. If they do contact us, one of the greatest scientific minds of all time has a dire warning for the human race. Professor Stephen Hawking may be suffering from motor neuron disease, but he holds the Lucasian Chair at Cambridge University, a post once held by Isaac Newton. When Stephen Hawking speaks, the scientific world listens.
The history of advanced races meeting more primitive people on this planet is not very happy, and they were the same species. I think it would be a disaster.
Many scientists accept that Hawking's gut feeling is a valid scenario. But human nature is to be inquisitive. It's highly unlikely we'd turn down the opportunity of making contact with an alien race, no matter how dangerous it could prove to be. And today, the thought of life on another planet is no longer just the stuff of pulp novels and Hollywood fantasy. For some of the best minds in astronomy, it's starting to look like a near certainty. Naked Science asks why scientists are now so confident that we are not alone. In all of human history, we had never seen a planet beyond the 9 in our own solar system, a tiny part of this vast universe. But in 1995, the discovery of a planet some 40 light years from Earth, 51 Peg B, rocked the scientific world. Another planet, another solar system, another neighborhood in the vastness of space. Since that day, rapidly advancing telescopes and computers have discovered more than 100 other planets. And we know we have only begun to scratch the surface. The universe is huge beyond our ability to comprehend it. But with our new search tools, we can see more of the objects and activity within it. There are almost certainly millions of other planets out there. Naked Science travels to the Lick Observatory to meet Deborah Fisher from San Francisco State University. She's one of a new breed of scientist, a planet hunter. Thanks to Fisher and a few other astronomers in this field, we now know of over 130 planets outside our solar system.
I find it incredibly humbling to now realize that our sun is really quite common, has a system of planets like other stars have. A lot of people would like to think that we're very special and unique. I think it's very natural and comforting that this is the way the universe is made.
But how do you discover planets light years away from Earth? Deborah Fisher monitors distant stars, watching their motion. If there is a planet orbiting a star, it will exert a slight gravitational pull on the star. Fisher can measure that gravitational wobble billions of miles away, down to a few feet per second. An amazing achievement. But the planets she's finding are all giant planets, more like our own Saturn. For life to exist, a planet has to match a tough set of criteria. From studying our solar system, scientists suggest that small rocky planets offer the best chances for life as we know it. Chemicals, the building blocks of life, need something to grip onto, and a solid surface allows that to happen. A planet has to be the right size, too. Much smaller than the size of the Earth, its gravity won't be strong enough to preserve the atmosphere. It would just escape into space. It's not just size. Equally important is location. a planet has to be near enough its sun for liquid water to exist. As far as we know, liquid water is essential for every form of life. Too near the sun, like Venus, where the surface temperature is a broiling 864 degrees Fahrenheit, the water would just boil away. Too far away, and water freezes. But on Earth, liquid water is everywhere. More than 2/3 of the surface is covered with it.
We want to find planets that might harbor life. We want to find planets that are at a distance from the star, where it's not so hot that water is vaporized, not so cold that water is just locked up in ice, but, you know, just right, the Goldilocks zone, where water exists in puddles.
And in June 2004, European scientists found the smallest planet yet outside our solar system. It's just 14 times the size of Earth, and may have a rocky surface, a kind of super-Earth. And where you have a rocky surface, there might be liquid water. Scientists think that this is the largest a rocky planet can be. Any bigger, and it would collapse. It's 50 light-years away in the southern constellation Altair. It's one of 3 planets orbiting around a sun much like ours. But the discovery of smaller Earth-sized planets will require a leap of technology, and it's already being built.
Break up the fight.
The space telescope, the Kepler Observatory, is expected to launch in 2007. The mission will survey thousands of our nearest stars. When a planet crosses between a star and the telescope, the size of the planet can be determined by measuring the amount of starlight it blocks. Scientists are optimistic they'll find at least 50 Earth-sized planets within 10 years of the Kepler telescope's launch. There is one group of scientists who've been looking for signs of alien life for over 20 years. We next travel to the SETI Institute in California, the birthplace of alien hunting. SETI is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and this is where some of the best minds in the world are engaged in a complex, sophisticated, long-term endeavor. We meet Seth Shostak, the Institute's senior astronomer. He's dedicated most of his professional life to searching for alien intelligence.
My personal interest, of course, in SETI, I think that goes back to my childhood. I can remember when I was 10 years old buying these books about flying saucers.
Shostak and his colleagues are searching for aliens by listening to the radio. It may seem basic, but radio is a powerful source of communication. Radio signals are energy waves, radiating out in every direction. As well as reaching your radio and TV sets, the signals also leak into space, and they have been doing that for the last 70 to 100 years.
I have a dream today.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The Lucy Show.
Oh, you must think I'm a perfect idiot.
Let's just hope our programs haven't put off any listening aliens. These radio waves are traveling upwards at the speed of light. It takes just over a second for a signal to reach the moon from Earth. Sounds fast, but given the interstellar distances involved, even the speed of light ends up seeming like snail mail. If we receive a message from the other side of our galaxy tomorrow, it would have been sent 100,000 years ago. That long ago on Earth, some early ancestors of ours were taking their first steps. 100,000 years later, we've at last become advanced enough to listen out for a message from the stars. But where is the best place to try? The answer? Arecibo in Puerto Rico, home to one of the world's largest radio telescopes. The Arecibo dish sits in a giant natural crater. It's a monumental 1,000 feet in diameter. This dish is so sensitive, it could pick up a cell phone as far away as Jupiter. Since 1997, Arecibo has been home to Project Phoenix, the SETI Institute scan of about 1,000 stars similar to our Sun within 200 light years of Earth. That's the cosmic equivalent of just looking in your backyard. But the search has to start somewhere. Millions of radio channels are scanned simultaneously. The universe is alive with radio noise, a sort of galactic white noise. But these signals, traumatic as they may be, are random natural events. SETI's electronic ears are tuned to hear signals made on purpose, signals that indicate life, something that stands out. A voice calling out through the background chaos of space.
It would be a constant tone or a slowly varying tone, sort of like a flute tone, a very pure tone actually, in a sea of noise. I guess you could say it would be like playing a flute note while standing next to a waterfall.
Naturally occurring signals are spread across a broad part of the spectrum. But an artificial transmission like a TV picture or radio broadcast is squeezed into a tiny part of the radio dial, a narrow band signal.
We're just looking for the kind of signal that would tell us that somebody has built a transmitter. We're just looking for the evidence that their transmitter is on.
After 40 years of listening out for a message, we've heard nothing. But this kind of search could take years. At the moment, we're just taking our first tentative steps. But is there anything else we can do? Naked Science next looks at a new form of interstellar communication. A light so bright, it burns 1,000,000 times brighter than our Sun. We've learned that our galaxy is just one of billions in the universe. Scientists are now discovering new planets and solar systems. But so far, we've been waiting patiently for a message. If there are any aliens out there, it seems they've maintained radio silence. But maybe they're trying to contact us some other way. Naked Science next travels to Berkeley in California, Krishna Telescope, to meet Dan Wertheimer, an alien hunter for the last 25 years.
There are 200 billion stars in our Milky Way galaxy. There's millions of galaxies, so it would be bizarre if we're the only ones.
He's not listening. He's looking for a sign in the sky.
Yeah.
Wertheimer heads up one of Berkeley's optical SETI programs.
Wow, so there's another one. So there's a lot of weird things happening in that.
Focus.
His team is searching for a very bright flash in the sky, a pulse that may only last for 1/1000,000th of a second. The most powerful lasers here on Earth can produce a light 1,000,000 times brighter than our Sun. Wertheimer believes that using a laser may be the way that aliens try to catch our attention. He thinks that aliens might use lasers to transmit a signal, something like Morse code, turning the laser on and off in short bursts.
The advantage of optical signals is that they're very directional. They could contain a huge of information. They could send us their whole Library of Congress, all their music, poetry, literature, science, medicine. Perhaps they tell us how to get on the galactic internet, communicating with civilizations all throughout the galaxy.
But how do the scientists tell the difference between starlight and artificial light? A laser light flashing for just 1/1000,000th of a second would deliver to the telescope up to 10 particles of light, called photons.
That's very rare from a star. Even a bright star, you don't get so many photons coming into your telescope in 1/1000,000th of a second.
The team monitor each star for a minute, and then move on to the next one if there is no flash. 10,000 stars have now been scanned, but so far, Dan Wertheimer has yet to see the light.
But I'm optimistic in the long run because the technology is changing so fast. The telescopes are getting better, the detectors are getting better. We'll look at more and more stars. Eventually we'll look at hundreds of millions of stars. We're going to be doing a sky survey of the galactic plane. So right now Earthlings are kind of in a primitive state. We're just learning how we might communicate with ET.
There was a moment back in the 1960s when Nobel Prize-winning British scientist Professor Anthony Hewish found what might have been an alien transmission. From what looked more like a series of clotheslines at a radio receiver, he and his team started to detect a regular series of pulses about a second apart.
Absolutely amazing about this signal was that it was a succession of sharp pulses, as if what we were looking at was a star, just simply flashing. Well, astronomical bodies don't do that. One possibility, obviously, of getting artificial signals from outer space is that you're dealing with something intelligent. And jokingly, we call them LGO signals. I don't think anybody seriously believed that, but it was a possibility, quite clearly.
There were no little green men to be found anywhere. Hewish soon realized that what he'd found came from a natural source. It was the signature of a dead star called a neutron star. These dead stars spin at high speed, sending out pulses like a lighthouse beam. So if they haven't sent us a message, maybe we should get in touch with them. Over 30 years ago, NASA did just that by mailing a letter to the stars from all of us. In 1972, the space agency launched Pioneer 10. After visiting Jupiter, the probe journeyed out into deep space. Today, it's 8 billion miles from Earth, heading for the red star Aldebaran in the constellation Taurus. The spacecraft is due to reach its destination in a mere 2 million years. If there's anyone home on any nearby planet, they'll find a plaque on the side of the craft. A greeting card from Earth, showing the location of planet Earth and a picture of what we look like. The symbol for hydrogen, the most common element in the universe, is also depicted. But there is another spacecraft even further away. Voyager 1 is now the most distant man-made object in the solar system. At some 9 billion miles from Earth, Voyager 1 is about to leave our solar system, destined to wander the stars of the Milky Way, perhaps forever. If Voyager should encounter any alien beings, it too carries a greeting. A gold-plated phonographic record attached to the side of the probe contains images, natural sounds, and music from Earth.
What if, though? Hold on. What if all of our different races are actually different humanoid races from different planets? And we've all visited this Earth.
I know what lurks in the hearts of men.
Excelsior!
What if we've been here for quite a long time? What if we designed this Earth to be perfect for our species throughout the galaxies?
Executed.
Wow. And we got into a war and destroyed all of our scientific journals and diaries.
My wings, your
created
face.
nuclear weapons and destroyed everything in the past.
The forest protects us all. Smash. Witness truth.
I got 2 gums and a sheet.
An ally has been slain.
Peace. Surpass the frailty of your form.
Captain, 3 down!
I'm not done yet.
Dying.
But yeah, I don't like my microphone. It's kind of weird. I mean, I like it. It's just that I have to speak directly into it to make it sound good, and then it's not loud enough still. So
Unstoppable.
I don't know. It's like it picks up too much and not enough at the same time. But that could be just my computer.
An enemy has been slain. Double kill.
Let fear.
That's just a thought. That's just a thought. Like, because I know there's a lot of Egyptian knowledge that we may have destroyed throughout the years There used to be an Egyptian library that the Romans may have burned down, and then Hitler burned a bunch of books and stuff.
War reveals what is
The
within
Romans
us.
and the Egyptians used to have a huge library, so did the Middle Eastern people. So there used to be a whole bunch of scientific journals that
See you later,
don't
Daisy.
have,
Stay right there, love.
they have been destroyed completely. All of the data and information in those libraries have been destroyed, which is why we need to learn how to really save data throughout war and throughout fires and throughout history. I think the best way to do that is to have a secret underground library that no one can destroy, and have it throughout the entire not solar system, but we need to have access to it in possibly the orbit of the Earth, and we also need to have it underground in multiple locations throughout the Earth. So like, if we want to save our advancement as we know it today, we need to save it in a way that we can access it in 1,000 years or more. 10,000, tens of thousands of years. We need to be able to save data for at least 100,000 years if we think we're going to last that long. If we think we're going to last up to 100 or 100,000 years or 10,000 years, we need to find a way to save every advancement we make in case of a horrible catastrophe, such as a war, or because in wartime we're thinking of victory. We don't think of what we could destroy and what we could lose, you know. So all of the data that we could bomb, that could have been discovered throughout many of our history's wars, we could have lost valuable data of anything and all sorts of things. And all we had left is the Bible. The most common religious text spread throughout the world because of missionaries. When you think about it that way, we need to have a more varied scientific journal, a diary, or a library that we can save in this world. That way we don't destroy our own civilization over and over again. And so we can recover if we do have a war that's inevitable. Or even an alien species can find it later after we've extincted ourselves, or we've become extinct. So I think it's a good thought to have an underground secret library, or something that's incredibly hard to destroy, but also something we can find. Not something that's impossible to find, like underwater, like in Atlantis, that we can't even find today. And we found a few. We found a few Atlantises. We found a few underwater cities, underwater temples, but they're not inhabited. The idea of Atlantis is that it is an inhabitable location underwater. A sunken city that sank on purpose and was ready to sink. That is capable of hiding underground, or was built underground on purpose, or was built atop the water and then decided to go under it, like a ship, but it was a city. So that's a cool idea, but we need something like that, and if there is something like that, we need to find it, if it still exists today. But you have to realize, it's not always that easy to create something that will last 100,000 years, or 10,000 years, or even 1,000 years. So you can't blame even the most advanced civilizations for trying to save that knowledge when it is obviously incredibly difficult considering how entropy works in this world. What does that mean? That means everything we make is destroyed over the course of 1,000 years or more. Everything. Stones start to crumble. Stones fade. Books burn. Water destroys and corrodes metal. So all of that stuff we could have, even CDs or our SD cards or our SSDs, would be destroyed within 1,000 years. Because of corrosion and just overall cheap plastic and cheap materials. So you might ask, well, what the fuck are you supposed to do when everything you make is corrodable or destroyable and not capable of lasting the millennium or time? I have no idea. I imagine a floating cube would be a fine. Have you heard of one of those? I forget what they're called. They're like codex cubes. They're supposed to be like cubes that you have to unlock that have all this data and information inside of them. And they're made to store information like a library of knowledge. And they're meant to survive time, but they're not always real. They're just fantasies. So something like that would probably be a good idea. Or like, remember the thing at the end of Doom 3? The Soul Cube, the artifact. But this is a weapon, not a library of knowledge.
Listen for our call, and then free us to smite down the evil.
Echo 1, give me a visual status. Echo 1, this is Recon Zulu. We've got massive damage all over the base. This place looks like hell. I've got life signs on the bioscanner. Eyes sharp. Echo 1, we've got a survivor, a Marine. Corporal, you hear me? You alright? Can you hear me? Echo 1, this is Recon Zulu. Prepare for medevac. Copy that. Have you located Counselor Swan? Yes, sir. He's dead. Roger, Recon 1. What about Dr. Betruger? He's nowhere to be found, sir.
I used to play that game. What happened? I stopped playing it. I'm not very good at it. And I stopped playing Doom 4 also because I lost my save files. Sucks. They got corrupted. I don't want to up my volume too much. I already make a bunch of weird noises. But sometimes I feel like I should be able to hear, or someone else should be able to hear me when I'm talking through some sounds. And I don't know what the volume should be at. It's hard to tell. It's called equalizer. Is that what it's called? Or I don't remember. Equalizer APO configuration editor. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Oh. Why don't you just do the one? Cancel. Yes. What the hell? Oh my god, no. No! Cancel. Cancel, are you guys still here? No. No, I want to stay. I didn't mean to dodge that. That was the equalizer program. Great. Guess I got a wait timer, huh? Yes. Yes. All I know is I want Sound Blaster, capture devices, Sound Blaster microphone. Press OK. Yes. Okay, but fuck, I gotta go.